believer that we need to read the gospel and Jesus' words and understand Jesus' actions and example in the aggregate. Not to pick out individual passages. That's what some other folks do to justify nasty things. I think we need to read the spirit and intent of Jesus for our world today. And Micah nailed that in the Hebrew Scriptures today. I'm going to reread that second paragraph of Micah. Again, I apologize. None of this is in my notes. Today's 3 lectionary scriptures may in fact be the most powerful combination of lectionary scriptures we have all year. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? He has told you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. Amen. Okay, I'm done veering off from the notes. Today's gospel is the Beatitudes. In the 5th chapter of Matthew, verses 1 through 12. Hear now the word of the Lord from the Gospel according to St. Matthew. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Then he began to speak and taught them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. May God bless the reading, the hearing, the understanding, and the acting upon this portion of God's holy and divine word. If you're offended today and you think that I'm not taking the Beatitudes seriously, you're not paying attention. I need to start out with a question as I read the Beatitudes, as I just read them to you. What did you hear, and what do you think you heard? We're going to talk about that, but first I have several non-related points that I want to share with you that I'd like you to consider and mull around this week. I'm not going to give you any hard and fast answers to any of these items or any of these situations. I'm only going to say that the answers I believe are there to be found if we seek them. First, many of you have heard me get on my soapbox regarding prayer in schools, and church and state separation, and the new presidential administration, and government behavior in general. I pastored a church in southwestern Pennsylvania in Blaine Township, where from vested interests and personal gains from political office, abuse of authority seemed to be possible reasons for some of the most atrocious political behavior. Politicians who threatened one another physically. I served a church in the Washington, D.C. area of Maryland, where an active sitting member of the Prince George's County Council shoved $89,000 in her underwear while the FBI was pounding at the door. Can't make this up. It's true. We live in a nation where 2 days ago our president issued an executive order to discriminate against those immigrants of a different religion. To what extent can Holy Scripture speak to us in these here and now predicaments? In terms of real political infighting and corruption and turmoil, to what extent is Scripture relevant? The second situation. Several years ago, in my position as a pastor, I got a letter. It was so vicious, so hateful, so mean-spirited, so exclusionary, so nasty. My first thought was, gee, I wonder what past pastor put us on this mailing list. And then I wonder what future pastors will blame me for. Anyway, the gist of the letter was that a country permits, got that? A country permits God to destroy that country when they do three things. This is what the letter said, quote. Kill children, permit homosexuality, and permit who gets to decide where Satan has entered into their political realm and engaged in witchcraft. Needless to say, the letter railed against the Harry Potter book series. Is that correct? And how do we deal with that sort of ultimatum in our society? How do we handle those kinds of threats and those kind of mean-spirited comments in a pluralistic and multicultural society? Given the diversity of this church, how would you handle it in a church that's this diverse? When someone says, I know God's will, and it's God's will that you will be destroyed because you do X. Last situation and concept I'd like to consider. Several years ago, the mayor of a small town in Florida issued a proclamation on the town's letterhead from her office saying that Satan wasn't welcome in the town of Inglis, Florida. And if you ever visit Inglis, Florida, Satan is not there. The letter was placed on posts situated at 4 locations coming into the town of Inglis, Florida. She drew some tremendous support from townspeople and some religious leaders, and worried and offended some civil rights groups. And her proclamation, of course, is seen as a gross violation of church and state. And of course, there's that whole question, who gets to decide exactly who has Satan in them when they attempt to enter Inglis, Florida? How do we deal with all of those situations? What should our perspective and motivation be as Christians when we encounter those issues and activities? I like the story of the preacher who met 2 little boys, and after greeting them he said, "Boys, would you like to go to heaven?" "Yes, sir," responded one of them immediately. The other boy was a little hesitant. "No, sir," he replied. Surprised by such honesty, the preacher asked, "Son, do you mean that eventually you don't want to go to heaven?" "Well, I'd like to go eventually," replied the boy, "but I thought you were getting up alone to go today." For many people, happiness, like heaven, is something that's going to come eventually. Never quite arrives. Depending upon the translation that you pick up of the Bible, the Beatitudes can be read as, and these are valid translations, can be read as blessed are the are the people who fit this. So what kind of God's happiness or God's blessing or God's beatitude is being shared by Jesus in today's gospel lesson? What do we really hear when we listen to the beatitude? And even if we do hear it, then so what? What does it mean to us? Well, in those situations that I pointed out, can Jesus' teachings in the beatitude make a difference? The point I want to make here is this, sisters and brothers. God's kind of happiness, as defined in the Beatitudes of our Lord, represents a radical reversal of everything we've ever been taught about the meaning of happiness, and indeed about the meaning of religion in our culture. We treat the Beatitudes as a joke. We don't believe them as Jesus said. We only believe what we want to believe about them. We treat them as a joke. And stop me if you've heard this. Look at the Beatitudes again and contrast them with what we've been taught about blessing and about happiness. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Happy are those who know how to survive when spiritually poor. We've always been taught to define happiness in terms of wealth. We have a president today, this very day, who said you have to be wealthy in order to be great. Surely, when we heard this, what we really heard Jesus saying was, happy are the poor in spirit if they can afford to be poor in spirit. It's okay to be thoughtful and introspective and upset at the injustices of the world as long as we live in a nice house and drive a nice car. We like bohemian dissidents. We like those who march only when they're white, mainstream, well off, and playing the part of an outsider, living in that role. We don't actually acknowledge that poor in spirit nonsense, and shame on us. Blessed are those who mourn. Sometimes pastors have rough weeks. I recall one that was particularly bad for me a few years ago. A visit to the funeral home for a 23-year-old boy who had died completely unexpectedly. Another visit for my sister's mother-in-law who fell in the bathtub and broke her neck and died. A hospital visit with a woman who had fought cancer for a year only to die of a stroke as I was walking into her room. And then Jesus says, happy are those who mourn. We have been taught that happiness means never experiencing anything that causes us grief. We know what Jesus said, but we want to believe that what he really meant was, happy and blessed are those people who are saved sorrow. Most of us wouldn't agree that we'd heard or believed that mourning equals good for your state of mind. It adds perspective. And meekness? Not in this life, my sisters and brothers. Happy are those who are humble. We've been taught that happiness is defined in terms of aggression and the competitive spirit. We're Americans. We are winners. And if you don't believe me, just ask the families of the two men several years ago who engaged in a fight to the death over their children's Pee-wee hockey game. If you don't believe me, ask those people in southern Texas today whose neighbors, the people they've lived next door to all their lives, literally, in the middle of a small town, will soon be on the other side of a huge wall. Stop me if you've heard this one. Happy are those who are humble. As a society, we don't believe that. Happy are those whose greatest desire is to do what God requires. Surely you haven't heard that one either. We've been taught that happiness lies in our desire to conform to the values of our own society. We desire to attain, to accomplish. Every child could grow up to be president, or at least should want to. And if you can't become president, a six-figure salary is going to be the consolation prize in America. In this country, we don't bother to separate God's goals from our goals. Blessed are the merciful. Boy, has that concept been bastardized and blemished and distorted in our modern culture. Blessed are the merciful. The news of the past 2 days speaks to that. Mercy is okay in its place, we believe, but its place has nothing to do with decency for immigrants, for refugees, for people of different races, for people of different religions. Please don't take exception as individuals. I'm talking about our culture now, but God help us, we are not a merciful people. We are not. And we need to be. We need to be open to God. We need to let God in. We need to know what real mercy is. For all our American talk about human rights and about justice in the world, we've been taught that the quality of mercy and showing mercy is weakness. And we as a culture never, ever, ever want to be perceived as weak. So we close our ears to that one too. Happy are the pure in heart. Blessed are the pure in heart. Tell that one to the guys and gals at work. If you aren't in business for profit, if you don't shave edges, if you don't cut corners, you don't inflate where everyone else does, or where you can get away with it, you're a fool. That's what our culture teaches us. The world tells us that it's our lot to do what it takes and to get what can be gotten. Pure in heart, as Mae West used to say, as pure as the driven slush. Blessed are the peacemakers. We've been taught that happiness is defined in terms of preparedness for war. We've been taught that in our society. Defense of home and hearth, we're told. Particularly now, the peace fanatics are viewed with suspicion and derision. What are you trying to do? Working as peace in this country today is seen as subversive. Since America has a God-given right to dominate the world and never to face adversity, we think that fighting for peace means handing over our country to terrorists, and you're called unpatriotic if you try to advocate for peace. There's no way to ignore what Jesus said unless you disrespect Jesus' position or you believe Jesus to be a liar. Stop me if you've heard this one. Blessed are those who are persecuted because they do what God requires. That's what Jesus said. His words, not mine. You know what we hear in our modern culture? Fools and gullible are those who take it on the chin over moral issues. Morality is dead in much of our society today. Answer a serious question in your own head. I don't want to show of hands on it. I want you to just share. Please don't share with me. Even after we leave, as we're greeting and shaking hands, I don't know that I want to hear. How many of the decisions and actions and behaviors you witnessed in our country today do you think are motivated primarily by morality and moral decisions? Happy are you when people insult you and tell all kinds of evil lies against you because you are my followers, Jesus says. Jesus said that. And what we hear is, don't get mad, get even. You see how the world and how our culture twists the words of the Beatitude, twists our attitudes away from what they ought to be. And blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. That's what Jesus said. What we heard was, choose your battles. Decide what horse you're going to back. Think about friends in influential places. You shouldn't have to take that insult. You shouldn't have to put up with persecution and slander. How enticing it is to us to hear Jesus' words the way we want to hear them, not the way they were spoken and not the way they were meant, and certainly not the way that impacts our comfort or our gain or our feeling of self-importance. How easy it is to hear the word with just a little spin, justifying our beliefs, justifying our positions, justifying our behavior, particularly if our conscience tells us our behavior may not be the best. How easy it is to be defensive or indignant when we're persecuted for no reason or through no fault of our own, or at least when we see it that way. How easy it is to resent that persecution and to forget that Jesus said, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. God's kind of happiness, God's offer to us of blessedness, reverses everything that we've been taught about happiness. So how do we react to those worldly situations? How do we handle life and living in this world if we belong to God's kingdom? We listen carefully. And we listen to what Jesus teaches, not what we'd like to hear. Like the disciples, we sit on the hillside and listen. Blessed are the poor in spirit, those who mourn and the meek. Blessed are the righteous, the merciful, and the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemaker and those who are persecuted for the kingdom of heaven and for my sake. And yours is the whole of the earth, the glory of the heavens, and the happiness of God.